Today, the worst danger is gender ideology, which cancels out differences. I ask myself if the so-called gender theory is not, at the same time, an expression of frustration and resignation.
So what does the Church's teaching say? Are there more than two genders or sexes?
No.
Gender theory says that biological realities such as female and male sex are only social and cultural constructions, but the Church says otherwise.
There are only two genders, two sexes, male and female. We have this as a basic of Christian anthropology, which comes from the report of creation in Genesis and in other books of the Bible. There is always the importance, underlined also by Pope Francis, that the two sexes or the two genders are created in a reciprocity.
Pope Francis, meanwhile, has repeatedly expressed his concern about the destruction of the natural order.
I ask myself if the so-called gender theory is not at the same time an expression of frustration and resignation, which seeks to cancel out sexual difference because it no longer knows how to confront it. Yes, we risk taking a step backwards. The removal of difference, in fact, creates a problem, not a solution.
In March of this year, the Holy Father even intensified his criticism.
Today, the worst danger is gender ideology, which cancels out differences. I ask for studies to be made on this ugly ideology of our time, which erases differences and makes everything the same. To erase difference is to erase humanity. Man and woman, on the other hand, stand in fruitful tension.
While advocates of gender theory are increasingly exerting political pressure, Church representatives fear dangerous consequences for society. In 2024, the Vatican's Dicastery for the Doctrine of the Faith also published the document Dignitas Infinita. In it, the Church warns not only against ideological excesses, but also against so-called sex change surgeries.
The Church is against surgery when it comes to change my sex, that I have phenotypically or in my chromosomes. There's no possibility to do that. If there are anomalies on the genitalia, their surgery is permitted, but not as a change of sex or this sign. You can't bring yourself to life, you can't change your sex by yourself, but it is a sign and is part of your dignity that you live with it.
Scientists also warn of the consequences of medical interventions that cannot be reversed.
Die Empirie zeigt, dass viele von diesen vermeintlich transgeschlechtlichen
Empirical evidence shows that many of these supposedly transgender people do not persist with this problem, but most of them reconcile with their birth gender afterwards. However, if hormone treatment takes place at an early stage, this almost always leads to surgical adjustment operations being carried out, without this ensuring that the problems are all solved afterwards.
sichergestellt wäre, dass die Probleme hinterher dadurch alle gelöst wären.
The Catholic initiative Courage International is pursuing a holistic approach to help people affected. Catholics like Father Colin Blatchford, the Associate Director of Courage International, offer help to those with homosexual tendencies and people who are unsure about their gender.
We define success as holiness. Pope Francis has said that multiple times. You must bring them to encounter Christ first before we can teach about the moral consequences.
The priest knows that accompanying these affected people requires sensitivity and the right timing.
We can tell people that we love them and we don't agree with them. We also don't have to tell people that we disagree with them every time we see them.
Franz-Josef Bormann, professor of Catholic moral theology, adds,
Der Glaube, der hat keine Vorbedingungen zunächst einmal.
Faith has no preconditions, but is a free gift of grace for everyone. regardless of their sexual orientation. This does not mean that it is without consequences. If someone has decided to live a life of faith, everyone is welcome. And if this is communicated in a credible way, and if it can also be experienced in your own parish, then I believe that many of the very heated debates will then become superfluous.
Now, these prohibitions and all those documents are not enough. So how does the Church deal with the people of the so-called LGBTQ community in its pastoral work?
There are different approaches. There's a Catholic approach that would mean that you welcome everybody who comes to you for pastoral guidance or to participate in the sacramental life of the Church or in the life of the parish community. Accept them, accompany them, explain to them the values of the gospel and that what God has given us.
Also die Selbststilisierung dieser Person zu ich bin schwul oder ich bin...
The self-stylization of these people to I'm gay, or I'm lesbian, or I'm trans, or I'm inter, or I'm non-binary. In my opinion, that is not the essential description of their own self. When approaching these people, the Church should not somehow develop a special homosexual or transgender pastoral ministry,
transgeschlechtliche Sonderpastoral entwickeln,
but should send out the message that what faith is about is much more essential and constitutive of their identity than the respective problems that they themselves may be struggling with at the moment.
Probleme, mit denen sie möglicherweise gegenwärtig gerade selber hadert.
One of the way that we help them is with this authentic, loving accompaniment, and the essence of that is those three phrases: I love you, God, I believe God has a plan for you, and I want to hear your story. If we can consistently do that over time, then they will find the truth. They will be led to Christ because they're already seeking Him if they're talking to you about these things.